Mhm. All right. What's up, Blueprint family? How y'all doing tonight? Thank you all for joining us. So,
You don't want to play it on your phone?
oh yeah, so the topic. We got a good topic for you all tonight. We will be dropping jewels about 7 steps to help you stop holding on to your spouse's annoying habits. Wow.
Yeah, it's a new one. Of course, we haven't really hit on this one too much before. Inspired by a great question that this lady wrote in, and it's awesome because it's an awareness and a topic that's pretty common because every relationship is going to be faced with some type of habits that you may find annoying from your spouse. So, how do you deal with that? How do you not allow it to destroy your relationship? And that's what we're going to get into tonight for sure. Disclaimer, my allergies is driving me crazy tonight. So if y'all see me with my tissue, that's why. That is why. But we here nonetheless.
Speaking of annoying habits, no, I'm just joking. So yeah, what is this question about?
Well, let's pull it on up. Of course, Instagram, we're going to keep you going on along, but YouTube, we're going to pull this on up.
Yep. So if Instagram viewers, if you want to read along with us, you can on YouTube. You can see this letter. This letter is here. You can screenshot it if you want. Take your time and watch it. I don't know. But yeah, we have more features on YouTube. So we have HD quality sound and video. And then also to the letter, we can post graphics and all that fun stuff. So if you can, please take some time to also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And YouTube viewers do the same for our Instagram. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start.
Yep. So the subject was, I want to stop being annoyed at my partner. So recently, I've been getting really frustrated with my boyfriend. It'll be small things that have nothing to do with him, but sometimes his input just makes me more frustrated, if that makes sense. I feel really bad for it. Sometimes I can get mean towards him and I always regret it. Nothing serious, just swearing, or I tell him to stop talking to me or that he's being annoying, but I never mean it. I've always had problems controlling my temper and get frustrated or impatient easily, but I don't want to hurt him or our relationship with my frustration. It's always because I have something going on, but since he's the person I'm always around, I get a temper with him. I want to make progress. I always apologize like right after because I hate getting annoyed with him, but I want to be kinder and not escalate it in a mean way. We have a great, healthy, loving relationship besides me getting annoyed, but I really want to get better. So please, absolutely, any advice would help. I have meetings at school with the therapist and have worked on an anger management book, but I want to feel like I'm actually being kinder and handling it better. I think this is good because in this time, this lady is recognizing that she needs to get some control of her emotions because if not, it will surely damage her relationship, which otherwise is very healthy from what she's saying. So I think it's good to at least be aware of this and then ask for help and reach out for help so that then you can actively, work on the things that are going to help you process and handle your emotions in a healthier way.
I want to do something we haven't done in a while. And let's go through this letter and then point out some red flags because there's a lot of them that are in here. And then this thing, it's not so much that it's something that she's annoyed about her boyfriend. And it's more so the problem is her. That is not her boyfriend. It's not being annoyed about what he does. It's really her, from what I'm understanding. And that's what she's admitting. So she gets frustrated with her boyfriend It's small things. You see, the thing is that you in a relationship, you have to let go of those small things, and especially things that annoy you. But
Yeah.
that's a red flag right there. Dealing with her, um, she real feels real bad about it. Then just stop doing it. So
That's easier. Yeah, it's certainly easier said than done, but that's why
yeah,
we'll.
because the thing is this: she has to understand that if she need to work on this as swiftly as she can, as fast as she can, and as apply the best effort. Because if she don't, ultimately she
Ugh,
could lose her
Lord have
boyfriend,
mercy. Right.
because all that anger, that aggression that she's projecting onto him, and she's admitting that it's not him that she does it for. She takes it out on him.
Yeah.
So that is a great way, ladies. If this is the type of attitude that you have, working all day, you're whatever the case may be, you're frustrated all day, and then you're just waiting to take it out on your significant other.
Yeah.
That is one of the that is a sure shot way to eventually lose your relationship and lose communication with someone that you love.
Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
and if you don't do anything about that and work on this issue um with great intentions, then ultimately you're going to lose out on a somewhat good relationship
Yeah.
or a good
Or a
person.
very good relationship. If it's not, like you said, her spouse is great. So, you know, ultimately, some things that will possibly happen is it can lead to arguments and
Of
conflicts
course.
within your relationship. And
Of
I think
course.
that's what this young lady is recognizing, that, hey, I'm starting unnecessary arguments and conflict. And this will over time just damage the trust and the intimacy that you have within your relationship. She didn't mention anything about, I guess how her spouse responds to her, but I can surely think that it probably will eventually make him feel frustrated and maybe even impatient right along with her. And then certainly, of course, it can make your spouse feel insecure and maybe even anxious, walking on eggshells because you snap off on him, or that will naturally just make a person withdraw from a
Yep.
relationship.
Distant.
Yeah, right, right. And then also too, when you're feeling frustrated or impatient or having anger or upset about something, you're more likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors in general. And those unhealthy behaviors, like, substance abuse or violence, will lead to other unhealthy behaviors. And we always talk about making sure you get those things in check so that you don't just kind of spiral down. So yeah, I just thought that there was just this is why I think it's good that she is pointing this out, because ultimately too, another thing, when you're constantly lashing out on your spouse or getting annoyed with them or angry or frustrated, all of that can even make you feel bad about yourself, because I think that's kind of like what's going on here too. She feels bad, she's like, man, I'm doing this to my partner and I feel bad about it. And sadly, this could also lead to you lowering your own self-esteem or even having a feeling of unworthiness, just because you know that you aren't able to handle your emotions in a healthy way. But it's totally the first step, of course, is the awareness. So I think here she's totally on a right track to be able to fix it and come to grips with it. And always, it's great that she says she's working with a therapist and have her whole anger management workbook and all that, because that's big. That's really gonna help with all of it in the long run on how she can handle things better. So kudos for you for even acknowledging that this is something that you need to work on. But the reason why I kind of tied this into it being how do you in a way stop holding on to your spouse's annoying habits, because if he does have any annoying habits, or any person out there and you're in a relationship, if you are noticing that these are some annoying habits that they may have, and we'll kind of get into some of those in general, but because of that, that will naturally cause you to be even more frustrated, be even more angry, be even more
Of course.
impatient. And it just will, and it could maybe even be something that's not even that big of a deal. But because you're already stressed out, because she mentioned, with her already being stressed out or whatever, that's usually the reason why she's having issues holding on, getting more control of her emotions. That will, ripple off into the relationship. So
To me, it seems as if the narrative is, well, not the narrative, but the situation, um, the frustrate, well, the annoyance is her. To me, that
yeah.
I think, I mean, looking at it this way, that the annoyance, he could say that, he could write his own letter and say that, I'm annoyed by my spouse because she's taking frustrations out on me, and I'm
Yeah.
not even doing anything. Or I
Yeah.
may, make up small things or do small things around the house, and then she just full blast, goes off on me.
Right. Right.
So that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and when it comes to annoying habits, they can really start at any time in the relationship. This woman didn't mention how I don't think she mentioned how long they had been together, but in general, usually what will happen is those annoying habits start to show up more after the honeymoon phase, the normal phase of when all those good lovey-dovey feelings are, high, and you're over what they call it, your brain kind of like overlooks anything that would make your spouse look bad in a way, because you're so doped up on the hormones of the endorphins, the good feelings of just being in love and the whole new experience. But couples usually, when they are in this honeymoon phase, also they try to put their best foot forward. So
Hmm.
it makes me wonder if they're a little further along into the relationship, to where they're more comfortable, and she's now just showing, like, how she really feels about things. And that's a normal thing, especially when you get out of that honeymoon phase and you start to relax and let your guard down. But as these annoying habits become more apparent, it's important that you work on how you respond to them, so then that way you're not allowing those annoying bad habits to really kind of destroy the relationship, because ultimately that can happen too over time. But did you want anything else with this letter? For the most part, I think we could just head on into how to help her, for the most part, on handling this, because yeah, that's not really too much I can see to dissect. What do you think?
No, that's it. That's all I wanted to point out, because it's, you can look at it that way.
Yeah,
As her being
certainly.
the annoyance, of course, because of her anger control issues,
Right. Certainly. Certainly.
and then also to her short temper. I mean, that
Yeah.
in itself is annoying. I'm pretty sure a lot of relationships have ended because of people who can't control their emotions, their anger, and have short tempers.
Yeah. Right. That is so true. That is so true. So I guess we can get into what some annoying habits can look like within a relationship. And you actually pointed out one, just the bad, just how you operate and handle your emotions and acting out on anger, frustration,
Right.
all of that. That's certainly a bad habit. But
Right. No, I just wanted to say also too, this is a live call-in show. So if you have any questions or anything that digress from the topic, please feel free to actually ask those questions. You can type it in the chat. You can chime us in so that you can actually be a video caller. We had a couple of those before. Or you can
request to join live,
they can request
or
to join
click
live.
the link in the description of the YouTube.
Yep.
Yep.
So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So some annoying habits could look like bad table manners. This could include anything from like chewing with your mouth open, or even some people don't like leaving, food all out on the table, or, it just depends on what you consider bad table manners. But that's certainly an annoying habit that some people have to come to terms with within a relationship. Also, it could be like messiness, leaving clothes on the
Yes.
floor, or not putting things away, or making a mess in the kitchen, little things like that. That messiness can be annoying too for couples. Another thing that couples could find annoying, disorganization. So if like one spouse is junkier than the next spouse, kind of goes along with the messiness, but we're talking about where it really can contribute to you not being able to find things, or like your house just being cluttered, or you're not able to like keep a track of like your appointments and stuff like that. That can be annoying for a spouse if you're doing some of these things. Or snoring. If
Snoring.
people think about snoring, yeah, that's a common one because well, not everybody snores, but a lot of people snore.
Everyone has the ability to snore.
Yeah, right. That's kind of what I was
Let's
thinking.
say that. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, certainly if you're really tired and stuff like that. But if this is actually, and this is also a health condition as well, too, if your snoring is really bad. So it can be, though, a major annoyance for some couples to have to get through that whole snoring thing. Or like interrupting. This can be, this is along with the communication thing. So communication annoyances like not being able to control your temper, interrupting, criticism, or like just being mean, passive aggressive behavior, all of that when it comes to communicating with your spouse. That is an annoyance that certainly has to be handled and talked about so that you don't allow it to really make your communication more difficult throughout your relationship. So, or even lack of communication. Lack of communication is also an annoyance. If your spouse isn't talking, we kind of talked about that, I think, a couple of nights back, or maybe last week. I don't know.
Right.
But,
how to make your communication better.
Yeah. Because lack of communication, that can certainly lead to misunderstandings and resentment. And, those annoyances is one that has to be checked. Different spending habits. That's another one. So if like one partner loves to splurge, loves to shop, and the other partner is more like save, then, one being more frugal than the other will certainly contribute to some type of disharmony within the relationship. And in particular, finances is huge when it comes to your marriage. So you want to be able to get those annoyances in check to where you can come to compromise and find common ground on those. And then the last one, y'all, excuse me. The last one that can really make it difficult is if you have different interests. So if one spouse is more interested in different things than the other spouse, or you just having a hard time finding common interests, that can actually be annoying within your relationship because it'll be hard to, find things to do together. So all of these things, you just got to remember that learning to deal with your spouse's annoyances is kind of a basic part of all relationships. Every relationship is going to have to work through this, but how to do that. And that's what this lady was asking. Like, how do I get check on my emotions and the things that may annoy me or make me upset and not take them out on my spouse? So that leads us right into our 7 tips for today.
So number one, the first thing would be to identify your triggers.
Yeah.
So what are the things that make you feel frustrated or impatient? So once you know your triggers, you can start to avoid them or develop coping mechanisms for dealing with them.
Yeah.
So when it comes to annoying habits, they can start to show in a relationship at any time, like my wife said. So
yeah.
Some examples of these. So spouses tend to get annoyed with each other when there is increased exposure to each other.
Yeah. So this is talking like when you're first dating, right? And usually when you're first dating,
like the honeymoon phase dying out.
Well, yeah, but more so when you're first dating and you don't spend as much time with each other because you're dating, and maybe you might only see each other maybe like once or twice a week. But then once you get into that committed relationship, you're increased exposure. You're now seeing each other more and more,
and then that's when those butterflies die.
Yeah. And like you're just, if you move in together, that's one of the main ways that I can think of increased exposure being, like a trigger of, it's a change within the relationship. We talked about how changes can really impact how you communicate and move throughout your relationship, but moving in together or getting married, all of that increases your exposure to each other. So it's certainly going to bring about those annoying habits that you might not have even noticed if you weren't spending as much time together. So that's just something to be mindful of if you are in that stage where you're starting to spend more time with your spouse.
Yeah. And so another trigger that this woman noted was stress.
Yeah.
So when people are stressed, they are more likely to be annoyed with each other.
Yeah.
Also too, if you're tired, did you talk about that? Because being tired can cause stress as well. So make you irritable and impatient. So stress can trigger the release of hormones that make people feel more irritable and also aggressive.
Yeah.
So
and like
be
you
mindful
said, tiredness.
Yeah,
it's certainly harder to keep control of your emotions, and even the littlest things will get on your nerves if you're tired. So that's just something to be aware of.
Yeah. Especially, sleeplessness.
Mhm.
I saw something about like a study on sleeplessness and them keeping people up for like 5 or 6 days or something like that.
Mm.
It can really damage or manipulate the way that you see the world and how you hear things and understand stuff. It really causes other mental issues.
Yeah, and I think that's why kind of when I think about bringing children into the relationship, the importance of having that time where you and your spouse don't have kids and y'all are just getting to know each other, enjoy each other, and understand each other. Because when you add in children, just the whole aspect of not getting enough sleep and babies and all this other stuff will complicate your relationship way more, and that stress will certainly impact you
Right.
a lot.
Right. Don't think that having children will make your relationship better if you're having difficulties already.
Yeah.
Because having children will ultimately also too, add more stress
Yeah, and
to
test you in a way.
right to your relationship. So for those people who believe that, I'm gonna fix my relationship by making them have kids with me, no, that ain't gonna work. If you all you need to address your issues first and then plan to have your children next.
Yeah.
So what's next? Learning history. So if
Mhm.
a spouse grew up in a household where anger was expressed in an unhealthy way, this can make it difficult for them to manage their anger
Yeah.
in a healthy way
Yeah, as an adult. Yeah. And that's important to note too, if this is, a reason why you're having an issue being able to handle your emotions. This young lady didn't mention, anything about how she learned to process her emotions. So this might be one thing that you have to go back and address, especially if you didn't see the example or get to learn that as a child. It's important to not, blame your parents or anything for that, but to instead to take on that responsibility now that you have been aware of, hey, I did not learn how to process things that annoy me or frustrate me in a healthy way, and I need to do this. So then that way I'm not, taking things out on my spouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then also too, next, some people are simply more prone to anger than others.
Yeah.
This may be due to their genetic or personality traits such as impulsive or being impulsive or having a low tolerance for frustration.
Yeah, that's true. When you talk about personality traits such as being impulsive, it's really, I think, important to then note mental health conditions and if there is like some borderline personality disorder or like post-traumatic stress disorder connected to it, because all of those things will make it difficult to handle your emotions and handle, it's not an excuse. All of this again is the triggers so that you can be aware and then learn your coping mechanisms or the things that you need to do to help fix this. But you certainly have to know that if there is some underlying genetic or personality or mental health trait that needs to be addressed, then yeah, certainly take the time to do that.
Yep. Also, alcohol or other drugs can impair judgment.
Yeah.
And make it more difficult to control your anger. So be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, that's one of those, if it's a trigger that you need to avoid, like not drinking too much. Certainly, if after a certain amount of drinks, it's hard for you to control yourself, then
yeah. Yeah, because not everyone handles alcohol the same way.
Mm-hmm. Or any other drugs too, just being aware of how other and other things impact you. That's super important.
Right. And then if you know that if you know that these things are not good for you, and the way you communicate with other people, that you need to be real with yourself about these issues and get some help, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that you're not affecting the people around you who love you. So, just be mindful of that as well. I know that's more easier said than done, but it starts somewhere.
Yeah. And I always like to start with the self first whenever you're trying to address any issue within your relationship, because ultimately you can't really control your spouse, but you can control how you react to it. And then too, also times a lot of the triggers or the things that may annoy you about your spouse may not be as big of a deal if there wasn't other influences that make it, more of a bigger deal for you. So that's why it's important to take the time to identify your triggers so that then you can take the time to calm down, do your self-care, figure out what it is you need to do to help yourself get recentered. That's what we call it within our wife economics course, being able to center yourself. That is super important as a wife, as a husband, just in general within your relationship, so that you know how to reel yourself back in and not make it dependent on your spouse to do those things or make you feel better or anything like that. So it can be anything from like, deep breathing or going for a walk, or like listening to music, or I don't know, maybe even indulging in your hobbies or things that you enjoy that can take your mind off of whatever it is you're going through, or getting more sleep, eating better. All these things you have to make sure that you're addressing within yourself so that you know for sure, okay, it's not me. It really is something that my spouse is doing that's getting on my nerves. But, you always got to look at yourself first and say, hey, am I overreacting here? Is there something else going on, And then, like you said, that's kind of what this lady was hinting at. She's like, it's not really my man, it seems to be me. So that's why we really wanted to go in and make sure that you address these triggers for yourself in particular.
Yep. And then choose your battles wisely.
Yep.
So not all annoying habits are created equal.
Right.
Some are more disruptive or irritating than others.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to choose the battles you're willing to fight. So ask yourself, what are the things that are most important to you in your relationship? These are the things that you should be willing to fight for.
Yeah. And not the things that are those little small annoyances. And this can be hard, especially if you're in the middle of conflict, or if you're in the middle of like being stressed out or upset or anything. Yeah. Because it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture here, right? What's really going on. So you really just want to take the time to choose your battles wisely and pick what's most important to you. Is this really that big of a habit that, you just got to make a big deal about it? Really take the time to remember why you're in this relationship and what is the most important thing. And if your relationship is going well, like this woman was saying, her relationship is super healthy and she's happy and she is enjoying it, then that just shows, hey, those little annoyances may be something that you just got to learn to let go. That would actually be your next step, being able to learn to let go of those annoying habits that may just be a part of who your spouse is and may not even be, such big of a deal, especially if they're not really able to change that, like snoring or like, I don't know, some other things that can be kind of hard to change.
Sneezing really loud.
Okay.
Or,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of little annoyances that, can just genuinely be a part of who they are.
Right.
And you just got to let it go. Yeah, you got to really learn to let go, pick your battles. And if you can just learn to accept some things within your relationship, if it's not make or break, if it's not that big of a deal, it will make your life a whole lot easier versus just holding on to something like
stressing yourself out about it.
Right. You're when it comes to a relationship, I think maybe your ignore game has to be pretty big, especially if it's, little things that you can really just learn to ignore, for sure. Sometimes I think about the best way to when it comes to dealing with annoying habits and kind of letting them go. It's like laugh at it, especially if it's something that you really can't do anything about. If you can find humor within your spouse's habits, maybe just laugh at it. It will really help you to let it go and turn it more so into a positive thing. Yeah.
And then communicate with your spouse, of course. Mm-hmm. So if there's an annoying habit that really gets to you, talk to your spouse about it, of course. So be respectful to them.
Yeah.
And let them know that their habits are infecting you.
Yeah.
Smoking is a habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say. I think more so it's an addiction. Well, I mean, I guess addictions are habits, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. And then that's one that may be hard for someone to quit, but you can help, motivate them, inspire them to change, and quit smoking.
Yeah.
So
communication is big here, especially if it is something that you just can't let go of.
Right.
Maybe because, like you're saying, it is affecting their health or
Health.
your health, and especially if they're like smoking a house or something like that, and then it's affecting your health too. Then this is an important conversation to have.
Good time to have that conversation.
Yeah, even if it's difficult, you have to address those annoying habits, because if you don't, then again, it will truly damage a relationship that might be beyond repair, because it can lead to resentment, loss of intimacy, conflicts, arguments. We kind of talked about that earlier. But if your spouse's habits are constantly getting in the way, then it can be difficult to feel close to them and actually continue to build that relationship with them. So you can't be afraid to have that conversation if you need to have those conversations. And as always, let's go ahead and go through how you can have this conversation, because this is one of the big things. Communication seems to be really hard in a lot of relationships. So it's important to get comfortable being able to communicate with your spouse. So we like to go through how you can do this, what this will look like, maybe even role play a bit so that you can see and bring down some of that anxiety of having a conversation about something that may be difficult to talk about.
All
right.
Ready? Yep, I'm ready. So, all right. So choose the right time and place. So don't try to talk to your partner about their annoying habits when you all are stressed out. So choose a place where you all both calm and relaxed.
Yeah, we always talk about that. Being able to set the stage for everything and be ready for it, certainly. And don't choose when you're sick or something like that, or you're tired and all that other stuff. It's just not fun. Or even like right then and there, like, oh, you ignored me when you do stuff like that. Like, that is not the time to really have that conversation, because your emotions are already kind of
triggered.
Yeah, you're triggered. Yeah, and that's just not gonna really help you have a productive conversation. And what you want with this conversation is for it to flow productively to where you're able to get out what you need to get out and express it in a way that's, respectful, and then also hear your spouse out. If you're already triggered, you're going to be less likely to want to hear anything they have to say. So really be mindful of that in the long run.
Be specific. So don't just say that your partner's habits annoy you. Be specific about what it is that annoys you. This will help them to understand that you are talking about. This will help them to understand what you're talking about and be more likely to change their behavior.
Yes.
Provide clarity.
Yeah.
Be clear and concise. Your snoring keeps me up at night. Can you, please stop? That was hard too to stop doing. So
yeah, right. It's important though to choose your words wisely here. Right. So you don't want to be disrespectful. You don't want to insult them. You don't want to call names. You don't want to blame them. As with any conversation with your spouse, you don't want to make the situation worse by not being mindful of the things that you say. Your words, I would say within our Wifeconomics course that you can either speak life upon your husband or your, spouse or not. So you choose to, choose your words wisely so that then you're able to communicate in an effective manner. But also to, if you do lose your temper, we're human, right? We're not perfect. Or you say something that, is mean. I like that this lady mentioned that she apologizes. This shows that you're truly sorry for your behavior if you do happen to lash out or act out on your behavior in a way that's not healthy. But it just shows you value them and you are taking accountability and realizing that, hey, I acted in a way that, although I was annoyed, it wasn't the right way to handle the situation. So that's certainly the best way to move forward if you do find that, you're angry and you just take it out on them, because, we're human. So you got to be easy on yourself as well.
Yep. And then also too, remember to also listen to your spouse, which brings us to our next point. So try to see things from your spouse's perspective. So just because you're annoyed by something that they do doesn't mean it's objectively annoying. Yeah. So try to see things from their perspective and understand why they do the things that they do. So also listen to how your responses to them are affecting them.
Yeah, because again, objectively, is it really something that's worth the fight? It goes right back to, I think, our second one. If it's when you're choosing your battles objectively, it might not be something that is that big of a deal, or really something that they can control, and you don't want to so much not see it from their angle, especially if it isn't something that they can really do something about. So really being able to see their side of things and how you're impacting them. I wonder, in particular with this young lady, I think it would be good for you to have that conversation with your spouse about, how have I made you feel when I act in this way, through maybe like one of those check-ins that we talk about. We've talked about that, I think, last week. We usually like to go and bring those up every once in a while because those are super helpful within a relationship, having that check-in. And the check-in just allows the opportunity for your spouse to be honest with you and you to be honest with them about the things that you are going through in your relationship, how they're impacting you, and things that you can work towards changing. It's always good to hear. And certainly maybe your spouse really isn't taking things too personal. Sometimes guys don't take, if they do something annoying, they might not take it too personal or really care, that it may have bothered you at that time. So if that is the case, that's great, but that still, is the time to just be mindful of how you're coming off and affecting your spouse.
Yep. So focus on the positive. So everyone has annoying habits. So if you focus on the positive aspect of your spouse or your relationship, it will be easier to overlook, bless you,
Thank you.
overlook their annoying habits.
Yeah.
So if you focus on the negative, it will be easy to let annoying habits destroy your relationship. Instead, remember why you love them. Remind yourself of all the good qualities they have and why you choose to be with them.
Yeah. It's always good to do that. That's huge within a relationship in general, is being mindful within your mind of the thoughts that you're having about your spouse. Because if you're able to hold, even if they're annoying you, you're able to hold on to the thought like, oh, he's annoying me at this moment, but he's so cute when he's doing something like this, or just little things that you're able to bring yourself kind of back around to the more positive side of the whole situation will really help you to be able to handle what you're going through and be able to move through it and not, get so weighed down by it, because you'll be giving yourself those negative thoughts, and then more negative thoughts is going to lead to more negative thoughts. And before you know it, your spouse is a bad person in your mind based off of the ripple of bad thoughts that you've been having. So you just really want to be mindful of the image that you're holding in your head about your spouse, and in particular, really try to think light and have good, light, positive thoughts on your spouse. That's going to help keep your whole relationship really positive overall.
Mm-hmm. And also to make a compromise. So if your spouse is willing to change their annoying habits, be willing to compromise. Maybe they'll change their habits, but you'll also agree to change something that annoys them. It is also unlikely that your partner will be able to change their habits overnight. So understand that. So be willing to compromise and find ways to deal with their annoying habits that work for both of you. So that's what the whole point of compromising. So I don't know what's an example for that. So
well, this will kind of look like so you let's go back. When we think about our habits that we talked about, so we talked about, of course, like the snoring, and then like the messiness, or like,
that's something.
Yeah, bad table manners, or disorganization, things like that.
Don't do those. You just promise not to do that. Or messiness, you help clean up.
Or it would be like if you notice that your spouse comes in the house and drops their coat on the floor or something like that, maybe in the same spot that they drop their coat on the floor, you buy something that they can hang their coat up at, so that it's easy for them to come in the house and hang it up. Hopefully it's something that they pick up and start doing through time. Again, that's why we said you got to be give your spouse some grace. Yeah, give them grace, because when it comes to a habit, certainly if it's a habit that they've been doing for a long time, it's going to take some time for them to break that habit and adopt new habits. So just figuring out the overall compromise of ways that you all can work towards if these are things that you don't like, you give and take, you figure out little ways that you can work through it. I think another one would be like, if you are having trouble being organized, or no, that's one that the spouse, a lot of that too. When I think of like compromising too, it might be if it's not that big of a deal for you to take up some initiative and helping them to become more organized or become less messy or something like that, it would be in your benefit to, contribute to helping them develop better habits. So that may mean y'all having like a shared calendar, to where if they tell you something about an appointment, you also schedule that appointment in too. So then that way it's like 2 reminders going along, just little ways that you can come to a compromise and figure out, what give and take, what's something that you can do, what's something that I can do, so that you're working together as a team. And then ultimately too, you got to be open to the fact that you're not perfect either. So there may be some annoying habits that they're like, well, okay, if I do this, then I would love if you did that too. That would also be, a compromise as well, because then while your spouse is working on changing one annoying habit, you'll also be working on changing an annoying habit. So that's just also too really about compromise, the give and take of, we're not perfect, and there's some things that, I could be doing as well overall in the long run.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling to deal with your spouse's annoying habits, you may want to. You okay?
Yeah. I'm sorry, y'all. I said my allergies. I'm going through it today. I'm sorry. But yeah.
So you may want to seek professional help. A therapist or a married couple like us can coach you to help you to communicate better with your spouse and develop coping mechanisms. So we're also available for consultation if you don't have anyone to communicate or have someone to counsel you or coach you with your relationship and dealing with annoying behaviors.
Yeah, because this is certainly it's going to be on a more specific basis. Every habit is
tailored.
For it to really be beneficial. What we gave y'all was, that's how we kind of went through the whole list of examples, because it's so many different annoyances that a person could be going through when it comes with their spouse. We're all different, but it's really about how you can adjust and work with that situation. So it's certainly, though, in this case, this woman is already working, with therapists. So maybe even bring up some of these topics so that you can strategically work with a third party on how you can manage your emotions when things like this happen. Like, when I think about too, like a person leaving their dirty dishes, or, little things like that. Like if it is something that, again, it's easy to be worked on in the sense of you can help and, figure out, or, just tell them like, okay, just instead of leaving it here, maybe put it in the dishwasher, whatever the case may be. It's just easier to develop coping mechanisms and ways that you can work with your spouse. Certainly if objectively it's someone else that's not so much in the situation with you. So that's why we always recommend bringing in a third party if you're really struggling and it's really hard for you to come to terms with it.
And one example that's I've brought this up before, the food in the sink. Like when I'm doing dishes, I used to just leave food in the sink, and I didn't know that it bothered my wife that much. So what I did was I hear her voice. I hear your voice. Don't leave the food in the sink. So that's what I did, was just, be mindful and be serious about the intention of, listening to her and what things that annoyed her. I mean, because after all, we live together. My job is to help make her life easier, and hers mine as well, not to make it hard for each other.
Yeah. So, and be okay with that. And too, like with that, it wasn't, it annoyed me, but I think for me, I just reminded him a lot. It was easy for me to, if it was his time and he was helping with the dishes, to remind him like, hey, don't leave the food in the sink. And just doing the reminding would really, help overall your spouse, like you said, hear your voice at least, to, because they're always hearing you say this. So it's be something that they kind of think about, especially if, they're listening to you and taking in what you got to say. That's why, again, it's really important to get used to the whole communicating about these things, even if it's difficult, very, very early. I think the honeymoon stage, it can last up to like 2 years. Yeah, in the relationship. Yeah. So it can kind of hit you hard if you start, you didn't have any issues or anything with your spouse, and then all of a sudden y'all really come close to each other, y'all living together and stuff like that. The honeymoon phase is dwelled down and they're just getting on your last nerve. So
I can think of I digress, but I can think of a real world example of this. Like, if the boyfriend or the husband is playing too many video games and they're not spending time, bless you.
Oh man.
They're not spending enough time with their spouse.
Yeah.
So that could be something that they could work on,
Yeah, that could be an annoyance too. Yeah, certainly. But again, it's just all about how you communicate. This is so common. Everybody's gonna have those annoyances. You can't let them break you down though and be, just damage your relationship because you don't talk about it. Usually that's why it ends up damaging the relationship, because you don't talk about them. You don't work as a team to say, hey, this is something that bothers me. Can you, or you approach the situation in a totally negative way or like mean and just, attack the person. You don't want to attack your spouse like this, especially, if you really care about them and you love them, you want the relationship to work. You don't want the annoying habit to get in the way. So really just be mindful and use discretion when you come and you approach your spouse about it, because that's really gonna make them break it in the long run too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess with that being said, if anybody doesn't have any questions, no comments, we thank you all for coming out.
I know we're gonna
tonight.
have to
we really appreciate you all.
End early tonight because my allergies, I'm not feeling good. But
thank you all
for showing up. Yeah.
Thank you all for showing up.
Yep, for sure.
And
let me see.
What's tomorrow? Is tomorrow's Thursday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is Thursday.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, Days is running. Days is just running in. And check the chat online. Nope, nothing on YouTube. Anything on Instagram? Sub Instagram, Full House. Thank y'all for showing up every night. It's nice to actually have y'all come in and get some value from us and have some fun. We enjoy these conversations with you all as well. So don't be scared. Y'all can talk back. We like that too.
Yep. But that's it for the night. So we really, really appreciate you all. And hope to see you all again tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Same time, same place. You all have a wonderful night. Peace.